Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tell Me Why, a short, sharp podcast for busy Beatles people in the know or busy Beatles people who want to be in the know. We're not going to take a lot of your time, but we have exciting things to share with you today. Because in the Beatles world, there are so many people. When I started in the Beatles world with the John Lennon series, I had no idea that there were authors and entrepreneurs and artists and sculptors and dancers and playwrights. It is a world unto itself. And probably the two brightest lights that shine in the Beatles world are my guests today. They are fun, they are smart, they are articulate and witty and just always uplifting and great to be around. Now, they're busy people. They say if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. They know how to get it done. And these two people are entrepreneurs. They own a tea company and a wine company. I'll give you a hint by saying it's Mrs. McCartney's Teas and Mrs. McCartney's Wines. They also are very highly involved in the newest cutting edge digital world because one of our guests today is known as the digital diva. She is all about QR code activation, social media presence, PR, image. She can work with you with, as she says, out all the Hollywood BS. She'll cut straight to the matter, make you into your best self. We're going to talk about their books today. So let's bring them on because they are authors as well. And that's our focus for today. Welcome to the show, Angie and Ruth McCartney. Yay.
Hello.
Hello, and thanks for having us.
Oh, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. How are you out there in sunny California?
Great, thank you.
Well, it's very warm. We have the heat wave too. So
hydrating.
So the doctor said hydrate.
So we did. Yes.
I love that. Well, let me go back just a little way because I think I have one of the earliest Angie McCartney books, My Long and Winding Roads, which I cherish. And then I also have one that is still for sale on your website, Your Mother Should Know. And this is a great book, too. All of your memories and adventures and Ruth's 5th birthday in the Bahamas when the Beatles were filming Help and learning to ride a bike with John Lennon pushing you and urging you on. Great, great book. And then fast forward to this book, which I gave a copy of this as a prize at my webinar on Tuesday night. This book is a tour guide to Liverpool, London, where else? What are the other cities?
Hamburg, New York, and LA.
Wow. And it's so cool because suppose you want to know about the Indra Club, where the Beatles performed when they first got to Hamburg. You not only can read what is written, but you use your phone to go to the QR code and go to their website. Or if you want to know about Paul's home, 24th Lynn Road, read about it, but then use your QR code. It is brilliant. So brilliant. This is still for sale on your website, isn't it?
Absolutely. Imagine and Wonder Publishing has that, and Angie's latest tome, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the big collectible coffee table book.
Yes.
There Are Faces I Remember.
Yes. And one more before we get to that one, because we've got to do the unboxing experience.
Oh.
My husband's, and he absolutely loves it. And he reads me one about every other day. But Dr. Angie McCartney's Liverpool Limericks, great, great book.
My favorite part of that book is the subtitle, And Other Random Irish Haikus.
Exactly.
Because there are so many Irish haikus.
That's true. Yes. And like the illustrations are fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I had fun doing those digitally.
You did all of them?
I did. I created the cover and all the illustrations inside. And yep, there you go, Matthew Street. It's my just, little black and white etching ideas with that. So
they're all wonderful. But now I watched the people on Facebook unboxing their Mind Games boxes.
Yes.
Oh,
But
yes.
this is just as elegant. There are faces I remember. So this is how it looks when you receive it in a beautiful box.
Cover by Shannon. Amazing.
Yeah, oh, the cover is gorgeous.
Paint all original paintings by Shannon on the cover, and then all of my digital musings in between.
It is absolutely incredible. Here is the back.
See, we
And
kind
then
of look like that.
it's the spine.
Yep.
And then when you take it out, this is the book. Look at that. Shannon, she is incredible. That John Lennon looks real. He could step right out of that
Yeah.
square.
Absolutely. They look
Mhm.
like, I love the way she gets the pearl on the teeth and this sweat beads and the whole thing. She's
Yeah.
just amazing.
She is amazing. And there's so many people that can get the Ringo, Paul, and John, but George is really hard to capture. And
Yeah.
they either make him look too gaunt or too whatever. But
And if you, there's a couple of little Easter eggs there. If you look at the C in the word faces, there is actually a face in there,
there
the
is.
silhouette that she painted. And then behind the four pictures is a crest of an A for Angie. There's a circle behind the four pictures.
Wow.
Yeah, there are lots of
I
little
see it.
Easter
It's
eggs.
right in the middle. Let me get up close so
Yeah.
maybe they can see that. It's a gorgeous book. So
And
then open it up.
she designed the font and everything. It's not a font out of a box. She actually designed the font and everything.
She's so beautiful too, isn't she?
I know, she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, yeah.
Okay. And this work was done by you, Ruth.
That's right, Sir Michael Parkinson.
Yes.
Really, I mean, this book is incredible. Okay, so there are faces I remember. You've got the teas, you've got the wines, you've got all of these books, you've got the digital diva. Tell me why you decided to embark on this massive project of memories, research, artistry. This was big.
Well, yes, Ruth and I were sitting in the garden one day and
About
chatting
2.5 years
what
ago
should we
now.
do? Yeah, 2.5 years ago. What should we write about next? And I said, well, I don't know how to put it together, but I've met so many famous people and interesting people since Jim and I got married. And then I thought, there are faces I remember, almost a little play on words, because the other books have been one way or another.
Right.
So I'm shameless, when it comes to self-promotion, as you well know.
But then the problem was, we were sitting, it was during COVID, and we were thinking, okay, everybody's in the house. We don't know how long this is going to last. We were told it was going to be 3 weeks, and it was 3 years. And so everybody needs a little entertainment, and reading is a great thing, and it's intergenerational because people lived in pods and bubbles. Do you remember? Grandparents lived with parents and kids. And so we took on the extra use of our QR code technology to be able to have a grandparent sit on the couch and read a book. And the kids say, well, who was John Lennon or who was Brian Epstein? And in a lot of cases, in all of Angie's books, there are QR codes that lead to, further exploration and learning. They're discovery books, really. Right. And so I said to Ange, well, I like the title, but that thereby hangs a problem, because if we're going to have to pay Shannon to paint everybody, A, there's no time, and B, I can't afford her because she's way up there, and C, or we're going to have to buy the images from Getty at $1,000 a piece, and there's 164 people and
have to wait till we've won the lottery to do that. Yeah.
And so with this book being limited edition, Stephen Wilson and his team, Simon Mills at Imagine and Wonder, did an incredible job on the printing and the production side of it. So there are 164 people total in the book. Several of them, because we just literally ran out of pages, are in an ebook. So if you purchase this book, as you know, there are chapters at the end of every chapter section, the authors and the fifth Beatles and so on. There are many more people that are included in the free PDF ebook if you just scan the code. So I wound up having to digitally paint 168 people, which is why it took so long, because I wanted to give everybody the impression that I had of them mostly as a child when I met them. So like Ken Dodd, to me, the British comedian, He was like a circus character and somewhat scary because he had weird characters. Eric Idle was also like a cartoon character for me. George was a very zen thinking person. So I painted George drinking tea in Maui. And so I wanted to literally portray everybody as my first impression as a 6, 7, 8, 12, 19-year-old, as I had met them, where I have put them in my garden of memories, which is why all the pictures are so different.
Yeah, they are. And Ken Dodd is one to behold. It's perfect. I mean, that's so perfect. And I was extremely honored to be included in the book. And here's the one that they did.
Yeah, I saw you as this sort of pastel angel bringing back the memories of John Lennon on the wings of your talent and your love for him. And I know you never met him, but I just saw you as a shining light of rainbow colors and beautiful things. And that's how I painted you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Let me tell our viewers, here are some of the people that they included. Ray Connolly, of course.
Who wrote the foreword.
There you go. And Julian Lennon, my buddy Alan Williams, the late Alan Williams, who was exuberance unto himself. President Bill Clinton, Joey Molland from Badfinger, Mark Lapidos from the Fest for Beatles Fans, of course, Kenneth Womack with Living the Beatles Legend, Tom Frangione, who has 3 shows now on Sirius XM, Lulu, David Cassidy. I somehow knew David Cassidy would be in there. And and
I'm not saying a thing.
No, not a word, not one word. But now, some of the people I was really surprised about. Tell me about Gene Simmons. That was a shock.
Yeah, we met Gene at a couple of things. And, you know, he obviously is a huge Beatles fan, and we've run across him actually in the business world, in insurance, and he owns Rock and Brews down in El Segundo, which served. We created a drink for them called the White Album Sangria, which was Mrs. McCartney's Maharishi peach wine, and so on and so forth. So Gene generously introduced us to the folks at Rock and Brews, his restaurant chain. So we've never really been on a rock and roll footing with Gene, but always on various business things. We've come and gone. And how did you get? You got him to answer a bunch of questions really quickly, didn't you?
Yeah, I did actually. When I thought of him towards, we were almost at the conclusion, and I thought about him, and I know somebody in Canada who was in touch with him, and I wrote to this person and said, do you have any idea how I could get in touch with Gene Simmons
today
to see if he could answer the 5 questions I've asked people? And he said, send them to me immediately. So I did, and it seems that Gene Simmons was about to go up the gangway onto a ship to start a cruise.
A kiss cruise.
When he got the message.
And he stopped.
And answered the 5 questions
and
as he got on the ship.
And texted Angie right back and said, please, I'd love to be in the book.
And I didn't even know he was a Beatles fan. I was so impressed. Yeah, his answers were so interesting. That was one of really the interesting interviews to read. Yeah. And then
really interviews. I mean, they're more like if you watch Stephen Colbert, he has the Colbert questionnaire.
Yes.
And he asked George Clooney, what's your favorite sandwich? So ours was, of course, who's your favorite Beatle? By the way, did you know if you actually apply for a job at the CIA, one of the questions that they randomly put into the the exam at the beginning is, who's your favorite Beatle? And if you say Ringo, they take you into a separate line of questioning and not into a different room, but they go down a different path, because people obviously normally say John, Paul, George. If you say Ringo, it means you're out of the ordinary to the CIA and they want to talk to you.
Really?
Is that interesting?
So when Rand wants to go and get a job, tell him what to say.
Well, I thought Mark Lewison's answer to that question was very interesting. Do you remember what he said?
Not offhand, no.
He said Stuart Sutcliffe.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yes.
I love that. Number one, it's perfectly PC. He's not picking a Beatle. And number 2, don't we all love Stuart? You gotta love Stuart. Now, Stuart, you only included people you have actually met.
Yes, I have met
Stuart. And even though you're good friends with Pauline, you had not met Stu, so that's the reason he's not in there, right?
That's
That's
right.
correct.
Yes.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah. There are a few people that have come back to us. And by the way, there are only 1,001 copies of this book ever printed, going to be printed in this format. And we are as of now, where are we? Mid-July of 2024. There are 216 left.
Wow.
So,
And they just came out.
so hurry up.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, the first time that I saw them available was in February. So that's
the best.
That's very fast. Okay, one other person that you had that we all love so much, Ivor Davis. Tell us about Ivor.
Oh, I love Ivor. In fact, in a few days, Ivor's going to be interviewing Ruth and I. We're doing a Mrs. McCartney's tea and talk at the Ventura Museum.
Yeah.
And Ivor is going to interview us. Oh, I love him. His humor is just brilliant. Plus, he's no slouch when it comes to being an author. He's written some tremendous books.
Well, and The Beatles and Me on tour. If you haven't read that, you should. I mean, he is a guy. He's in he's 84, 5 or 6. He's somewhere in there. He's like this one. He wears my ass out. He's an absolute dynamo. She's 94. He's 80 something. And between the two of them, I know by the end of the Tea and Talk Ventura Museum, I'm going to need a little lie down and a cup of tea because But you think about where Ivor Davis has been in history. He was called by the Daily Mail the morning of the Sharon Tate murders to go up to El Cielo. He was the first reporter on the scene at the Manson murders house. Right. He was in the car with the Beatles on tour and in the room when they met Elvis. Right. And he was in the kitchen when RFK was shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And his next door neighbor turned out to be a mass murderer.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah.
And when James Meredith tried to, break the color barrier and attend college in the Deep South, no reporters were allowed. So Ivor posed as a student and slept on the floor of the dormitory and was there.
Get that? Yeah.
He was one of Reagan's boys on the bus. He was everywhere. Ali McGraw, Steve McQueen, Muhammad Ali. The man is amazing.
He is, isn't he? I love Ivor.
We can't wait to see him on Saturday. So.
Yeah.
He's a dynamo. Well, I'll be tuning in. I'll be watching you on Zoom. Now, one more person that we're going to see very shortly, and someone that we all love, Freda Kelly. Tell us.
Oh, bless her. Good old Freda.
Tell our viewers who she is in case they don't know. They've been living under a rock and don't know.
Well, Freda Kelly was a 16-year-old girl who used to go to the Cavern Liverpool lunchtime sessions, and she was a huge Beatle fan and had secretarial skills. And Brian sort of spotted her as one of the sensible teenagers. She wasn't sort of giddy and after the boys and trying to put 3 pints of beer down in her lunch break. She was just very intensely focused on the music and the band and the vibe and everything. And so I think she caught Brian's eye. They saw each other so often that he offered her a job, and she said, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask my dad." Working with these people, and then ultimately, of course, she went to work for Brian Epstein as a secretary and founded and started and closed and replied to the very last Beatles fan mail because she was the Beatles fan club secretary.
Yeah.
So she's the subject of an incredible Ryan White film called Good Old Freda. It was his first documentary. And Freda, we'd lost touch for years because she doesn't do Facebook or anything herself. And Angie was doing at that time. She was on the Pete Price radio show in Liverpool every Sunday doing the Hollywood gossip. And Freda went one time outside the studio and waited for Pete to come down at 10 o'clock at night or something, and said, "I know Angie's on the radio. Can you give her my number? Somebody's making my nephew's making a film about me, and I'd like Angie to be in it," which is how Angie got her cameo, which they filmed here in the other room. It was Ryan White's first film, and he's gone on to direct and win tons of awards for The Case Against 8, which was the anti-gay marriage hateful thing, the Serena Williams documentary, Pamela Anderson documentary, Dr. Ruth. Yeah. I mean, he's a big deal filmmaker with an Amazon and a Hulu and a Netflix deal now. And his very first foray into documentary making was Good Old Freda. And I think, he'd gone over to Liverpool and filmed Freda, and then he came here. We sat in the kitchen on the side, and I ordered a pizza, and we drank cheap bottles of wine, and he's like, "Oh, thank you so much for letting me film here." And now he's like a big ass Hollywood deal, you know.
Don't you love it? I love it. That is just the way it should be. Well, the last one I'm going to ask you about is this. This is my favorite one in the book, was this gentleman right here.
Oh, my God.
Jimmy Mack.
Jimmy Mack.
Yes.
Jimmy Mack.
That's the biography was so special and touching, and it just was so great. And the painting, Ruth, beautiful. It's really beautiful. This book will take you hours to read because, well, days, and you want to go slowly. You want to look at the pictures. You want to digest the information. You want to read the answers that these people gave to the questions. It's extremely special. And there are only, 200 and how many copies?
Today, 216 in the world left for sale. And then that's it. When they're gone, they're gone. So
they're gone. So how can people get a copy of this book?
They can very simply go to therearefacesiremember.com.
Okay. There you go. And you even get a nice little bookmark that you can read page to page. It is an elegant book, but more importantly, it will touch your heart. And in this world where there is a lot of division and rancor, this book is full of love, and it's full of just passion for people and acceptance of everybody. And it's just a good book. It truly is.
Oh, you're very kind. Thanks.
Well, you guys, you put a lot of love into this, and it shows.
Well, you do into your books. There are tons there. I mean,
I try. I'm so celebrating because I've been writing the series of times that the Beatles had to go into EMI to make Rubber Soul, and it's taken me a year and a week to get them to make Rubber Soul, and I finished it 2 days ago, and I'm jumping up and down. I'm so glad to be out of the studio and back in the real world.
Absolutely.
Not my cup of tea. Well, we always close the show with a question. What is your favorite John Lennon quote?
You go first. There's so
many.
Life
is what happened. What is it now? I have to think about it. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It said so much about John. I mean, when you think about, he was probably planning, to marry Cynthia and have Julian, and then the Beatles happened, and then he was probably planning. I think finally he got a hold of that statement and turned it around when he was able to have the peace of mind and the finances to be a father to Sean and be in the Dakota and live by his own rules and not have somebody shove something under his hotel door and say, check out in 30 minutes, we're getting on a train or a bus or a plane to somewhere else,
I agree.
My favorite John quote is something I'm paraphrasing: no time wasted is wasted time at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Time you wasted is not wasted at all. Something like that. Yeah, it is. That is the truth. And now for me, my sister would be the first to tell you I can't do it. But for those people that have time to smell the roses and enjoy life and watch the sunlight through the leaves.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see that as wasted time. I think, looking back to John's life, and you think they grew up in black and white and they died in color, in a color world. I think he would probably be referring to playing footy or soccer in bombed out buildings or whatever. But who knows if he hadn't taken the time to walk along the cast iron shore or go and smoke a ciggy down by the River Mersey, if he hadn't allowed his mind to wander, we wouldn't have probably had the genius that came out of it. You have to give your mind and yourself space.
Yeah. How many times was he so frustrated because he couldn't write, and he would go have a lie down, and then it would come to him. Nowhere, man. Just come to it. You have to give your brain a break. Thank you both so much for being
here. Thank you.
And on T-Flix Tuesdays, every Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. if you're on the West Coast, and 1:30 if you're on the East Coast, 7:30 p.m. 2:30 and 7:30 in the UK.
And we're on daylight savings.
And that's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And people can view it on Facebook, right?
They can live. We stream live to Facebook at 11:30 Pacific every Tuesday. And then it goes up on our YouTube, McCartney Studios YouTube channel within about an hour. And if it's Beatle related, you will find it on the daily newspaper, rock and roll newspaper McCartney Times that my husband Martin runs and curates and edits at McCartney.com. So you can catch all of our Beatley and rock and roll and 60s fabulous related guests on T-Flix Tuesdays. And we just turned it into a podcast. So anywhere you get your podcasts, we are slowly turning our 160 something episodes into audio podcasts as well.
Wow, that is fantastic. Congratulations on all of your many successes. You truly are a bright light. And I always close by saying shine on, but for you two, I mean it. Shine on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I'll drink to anything.
Cheers.
You know me.
Good night, ladies. Thank you.